When you start to think about legacy, it gives you the opportunity to really consider how the work that you are doing or the life you are living now is going to benefit others. Long after you're gone, what is going to be left?
Welcome to the Aligned State Podcast. I'm Kristian Livolsi, and today we are having an inspiring conversation. And joining me, my incredible co-host, my guru, my friend, Bronwyn. Welcome to the Aligned State Podcast. I'm Kristian Livolsi, and today we are having an inspiring conversation about what it truly means to build a legacy of impact. And joining me, my incredible co-host, my guru, my friend, Bronwyn. Bronwyn, are you ready to dive into this one?
Absolutely. That's perfect.
All right, fantastic. Look, in this first episode, we dive deep into what it truly means to live and lead from a place of alignment. We explore how to break free from survival mode and step into a life filled with clarity, purpose, and sustainable energy. I know that, Bronwyn, you're going to share actionable insights on reconnecting with people's core values, aligning their energy with purpose, and making small intentional shifts that lead to lasting impact. And if you are listening and you are ready to build a legacy that lights you up, and I think that's really important, has to light you up, then this episode will inspire you to take the first step towards creating a life and leadership that you love. So let's get you all to tune in and discover how alignment can transform your mindset, your energy, and your leadership, and ultimately help you create a legacy of true impact. All right, let's start big. Bronwyn, what does the aligned state mean to you, and how does it tie into creating a legacy?
Yeah. So the aligned state is obviously bringing people into their center so that they can be in their power. And for me, the way it ties into the big picture is that part of my purpose for being here is to help people expand and live in their empowered state so that not only are they in their own power, but they bring with them their community, their families, their work colleagues, their businesses. And in expanding in that forum, it means that they get not only do they get bigger and better, not only are they making decisions and choices and taking action from a place that is centered for them, but it's going to, by default, end up being aligned for others around them because they'll be operating from the highest good for everybody. So the legacy for me, it's interesting. The word legacy never used to be in my vocabulary until quite recently. And one of the benefits about legacy is that when you start to think about legacy, it gives you the opportunity to really consider how the work that you are doing or the life you are living now is going to benefit others. Long after you're gone, what is going to be left in terms of the transformation that you've been able to facilitate for other people? And part of my gift and part of why I came here is to expand others' consciousness, expand the consciousness of humanity, enable them to be their best version of themselves so that they can do the best for themselves, for their community, and for the earth. Yeah.
Beautiful. I really love that. So, Bronwyn, many leaders feel stuck in survival mode, right? Barely able to think about tomorrow, let alone a legacy. How can they take that first step toward alignment?
Yeah. The first part is starting to acknowledge where they're at, because if people don't give themselves permission to connect with who they are now, they're going to have a very great difficulty working out where they've got to go next. So one of the biggest issues that I see with people that are in survival mode is the denial of themselves. Now, that's usually been something that has they've lived with for a long time. Yes, it can come from overload, but usually it started well before that. And so this pattern of not listening to their own needs and not making sure their own needs were being met means that they're sacrificing themselves for others on some level, and ultimately, losing the thread of who they truly are and honoring themselves. So as soon as that thread is lost, what happens is you start running on a default program. You're trying to meet other people's obligations. You're kind of trying to do what you think you should do, not what your body and not what your inner workings, not what your essence is telling you to do. And by default, that pushes you into survival mode. It's very hard to be thriving when all you're doing is trying to get through the day. And it's such a Western culture, or a culture that is under pressure. And so the way to start to change that is firstly to start listening to yourself and then make your way forward from that point.
That's pretty cool. So I was just taking notes while you were talking. So really, it's denial, sacrifice,
Yep.
losing their own identity, running on default, which then obviously forces them into survival. So
Yep.
then, what's that first step then that they need to take?
Yeah. So in terms of tuning into themselves, often it's as simple as giving themselves space,
Yeah,
because most people in, modern cultures are, always wanting more, like more time at work, more time with their family, more money, more movies, more whatever it is, more. And so they push themselves, push themselves, push themselves. And then very few people are comfortable just being in the quiet. And so allowing yourself space is critical to starting to connect with yourself. And initially, when people create space, often what happens is they get a bit worried that there's something wrong with them, because all these thoughts flood in, all this energy comes in, they start to notice all the things that they haven't noticed before, they think there's major issues, they get scared. And what do? You make yourself busy again. You go back into survival mode because it's familiar. Whereas if you can allow yourself the freedom and the commitment to create space, it's the first stepping stone to start to make change and to notice what's actually going on within.
I love that. I'm really glad we got that. So really, it's allowing for that time and space to be created. And you're very good at doing that for people. You've been doing it for me for 7 years. Let's move slightly to the left.
Yep.
Let's talk about energy for a moment. As
Yeah.
business owners, we often pour so much into our businesses that there's really nothing left for others, our families, even ourselves.
Yeah.
How do you help people realign their energy, Bronwyn?
Yeah. Yeah, so energy is a really good word to use, because the reality is everything is energy. Yeah, we are energy, our surroundings are energy, and how we manage that is up to us. So it has to be a conscious choice to honor ourselves, and in doing so, creating one space to identify with what our needs are, but also making and creating the opportunities that enable us to witness our energy and to make active choice, proactive choice about what we want our energy to be and where we want to direct our energy. So our energy is always with us. How we use it, how we change it, how we shape it, and how we interact with others using our energy is critical to living the life we want to live. And so it's in our interests to seek endeavors that teach us to manage our own energy in a way that is wholesome for us, that creates I'm going to use the term cellular renewal, and it's become a bit of a catch cry for me lately. I'm really interested in the cellular renewal. And if we're holding an energetically healthy space for ourselves, we will be renewed at a cellular level, which means we won't be depleted all the time, which means we can enjoy those people that we love around us. We will actively create space. We will honor the people that work with us and for us. We will build new opportunities that elevate our energy. We will follow our path of energy where we feel uplifted. We will do that for others. So suddenly you're developing this ongoing ripple effect from the core of who you are and your commitment you have made to yourself into your entire community.
That's pretty deep. Pretty deep. I mean, what I really picked up from your answer is that obviously energy, we are energy, everything is
Yeah,
energy. But what you really picked up is that we are actually in control of that.
yeah,
And we also must honor ourselves and create opportunities for ourselves, because
yeah,
ultimately we actually have the choice, and we've just got to make better decisions, right?
yeah,
Because that allows us to actively create that space that then fills our cup. Would
yeah.
that be fair to say?
And those decisions that we make need to be in alignment with ourselves to continue expanding our energy and to continue making decisions and taking actions that are going to move us forward in a way that is harmonious. So by taking the time to honor the energy that we are in and or making change to the energy we are in so that we're operating from our highest vibrational capacity, then it means that our businesses will begin to operate from the highest vibrational capacity. Our relationships will begin to operate from that place. So everything starts to unpack, and energy is like a spiral. You can choose an upward spiral, yep, or you can choose a downward spiral. So by positively reinforcing that energy, you expand the energy upwards, and therefore more positivity will come to you.
I love it. I love it. So we've talked about legacy. We've talked about energy.
Yeah.
Let's talk about purpose. Now,
Yeah.
I know. I'm kind of like the purpose expert, and I'm asking you a question about it. We spent a long time together, working
Yeah.
together, and so the question around purpose that I want to ask you is, how can leaders reconnect with their why when they feel so disconnected, particularly disconnected to their legacy, disconnected to their own energy, and because they're surrounded by everybody else's energy. How can leaders reconnect with their why when they feel so disconnected?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a couple of things for me there. So purpose, quite often people see purpose as a singular thing, right? But I think you can have multiple purposes, and you can have a big picture purpose and you can have little picture purposes. When someone's really disconnected in the beginning, when they don't know who they are and where they're at, and they're not sure what to do, and they're looking for this sense of purpose, we have had a culture that has upheld purpose as though you're only allowed to have one. So the first thing I would say is allow yourself to tap into whatever purpose comes to you. Now, that purpose will come to you by a sense of upliftment, something that really might put fire in your belly, makes you feel joyous, will be a calling. It can be any of those things. Now, when someone's been really disconnected for a long time, initially they may have lost connection with that. So just by creating space to let their energy rebound, will give them the space then to ultimately feel the things that they are drawn to. And by being drawn to activities, endeavors that light their fire, they're going to start to find their purpose again. So surrounding themselves with other people who are clear about their purpose, surrounding themselves with people who elevate their energy, choosing to be in environments that elevate their energy, all of that will feed into finding purpose and reconnecting in a way that is truthful for them. And if the initial connections to purpose are something quite local rather than like an enormous purpose, that's perfectly fine, because sometimes there are stepping stones to purpose. I mean, you have a very big and clear purpose and you've had that for a long time, but not everybody has that, big idea in the beginning. Sometimes it takes little incremental steps before it really shows itself, because there needs to be a degree of resilience when it comes to acting on your purpose. There needs to be a degree of bravery, because if you truly connect with a big purpose, you've got to be prepared to back yourself and really step into it. And so that honoring needs to be worked towards if someone's lost connection.
Absolutely. I mean, look, as an expert on the topic of purpose, I agree with all of those things that you've said, and I think that the most important people need to recognize is the difference between an ambition and purpose. And purpose is something you actually develop before you are 12 years old. And a lot of people, and the research is undeniable in this area. It's like your values. Your values are developed before you're 12.
Yeah.
Yes, there can be adopted values that come later, but your deep enshrined values and your purpose is even deeper. Like some of the studies are now suggesting that your purpose is kind of developed before you're 8, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at a man like Elon Musk, his mission purpose was to, you know, he believes at an early age, he believed from watching all the stuff that he watched, that we are the only civilization, right? And so why is it that we only have one planet? Why aren't we trying to colonize another planet as a fall to if something goes wrong? And so that inspired him doing physics, and
Yeah.
and he developed that as a young age. In his autobiography, they talk about his earliest memory around that is 8 years old, 7 years old. But at the same
Mm.
time, he also believed that we had to be sustainable with our energy, and
Yes.
that's how he got into electric vehicles.
Mm.
Maybe slightly misguided that a sustainable world would be fully solar powered, but
Mm.
the reality of it is he has gone on and followed his purpose and his mission relentlessly. Now, there's been a lot of talk about Musk, particularly in the last few weeks, from all the anti sentiment around, his support of Donald Trump, for example, and then the media are exacerbating a gesture that he made and trying to link it to you know neo-Nazism and everything else. So it's very topical to be talking about Elon. But when I look at the simplicity of it, after listening to his autobiography, that is a true example of someone who intrinsically knew at a very young age what they
Mhm.
were on this earth for. And
Yeah.
so many people, now Elon wouldn't have known that until he got older. Does that make sense? And he tried to do
Yeah.
a whole bunch of other shit along the
Yeah.
way. But what I guess I'm using him as a really good example, and hence why I put in all those caveats. I don't want people to be thinking that I'm in support of neo-Nazism or anything else. I certainly, as you know, I'm definitely not in support of the media. I think they have this wonderful ability to spin a story however they and the angle they want to use it. But the reality of it is, you know, that is a prime example of someone who unpacked their purpose early, and then when the penny dropped, it became a mission, and the mission is
Yeah.
to Mars, and the mission is is a sustainable environment for people to live in. And he almost went bankrupt in the process of doing it. And
Mm.
now he's the richest man in the world. And I think
Mm.
people forget that it's like he wasn't always the richest man in the world. You know,
Mm.
um, and that this really applies to anybody out there who is having a go at life.
Mhm.
And a lot for the people that are suffering from overwhelm, isn't it, Bronwyn? Like, and this is where I think leaders, I think there was a study when I was doing a paper on this. Only 20% of Fortune 500 company CEOs knew their why. And yet they were leading Fortune 500 companies. And Harvard was like, this is mind blowing.
Mm.
So when shit hits the fan, no wonder why you guys scatter and run. You don't even
Yeah.
know why you exist. But
Yeah.
yet the people that sustain, this is where your comment back to resilience.
Yeah.
And so it takes time. So I thought that was a really beautiful answer. So I want to bring this together, right?
Yeah.
So for those who are listening right now and thinking this all sounds great, but it feels so far away, what's
Mm.
one piece of advice, Bronwyn, that you would give them to start their journey towards alignment?
Mm. Yeah. I think my one
I know
piece of
it's tough because it's one thing, but
that one piece of advice is to create space, because in creating space, you start to notice where you're at, and from there you can make choice. Because once you start to observe how you're feeling in your body, how you're feeling in your mind, how you're feeling in your emotions, then you can start to go, right, okay. If you notice wobbles, you can start to address them. If you notice clarity, you can start to follow it. If you are not sure, you can sit with it a little longer, or look for people to work with so that you can elevate yourself, so that you can become aware, so that you can tune in more easily. And for me, it's about tuning in. It's starting to listen to yourself, and you can tune in lots of different ways. You can tune in just by sitting in nature and connecting with yourself. You can, find yourself a quiet place to sit. You can give yourself that space in all sorts of environments, or you can proactively take action to start to be guided into a deeper understanding of who you are.
amazing. Look, Bronwyn, this has been such a meaningful conversation. I think we both agree, right? And um, I think, so all of our listeners, let's go out there and create space so that we know how we're feeling, right? But I think a lot of our listeners are going to take, or are going to be feeling inspired to take action and start building their legacy from a
Mm.
place of alignment by, this notion of you tuning in and finding space. Um, I finally, after years and years of working together, convinced you that it was time and space for us to create a program.
Yes.
And that
That's right.
program does exactly that, doesn't it? It
It does
essentially,
that. Yeah.
the whole ethos behind that program is to get people aligned. Do you
Yeah.
want to just quickly share what I'm mysteriously trying not to uncover? Um, and maybe just like 1 minute, just a high level, why have we created it? What is it, and how can people access it?
Yeah. So the reason we've created it is for a rapid way for people to connect to themselves, choose how they want to live their life, and actively and proactively anchor it. So that's our why. And the reason we're doing that is so that they can share that in the environments in which they live and work, so that they can elevate themselves, so that they can elevate others. Yeah. So to that end, we've created a program that is accessible early mornings in our time zone and on recording for those who are not in our time zone, so that you and I bring together the yin and the yang. So we can get a bit of yin action by tuning in. So through being guided through meditation. So I work with a lot of creative visualizations that anchor people into their own energy. The purpose being to tap into their own energy. And then that's supported by the discussions that you and I will have around mindset and around purpose, particularly, you sharing your absolute passion for purpose and helping people tap into that. So together, to have a couple of sessions a week, live sessions a week, where we give people the opportunity to really anchor into who they are and to elevate themselves to the start of the day and pull that energy, that vibrant energy of all that they are into their day and into their week and into their life. It really gives us the opportunity to start to leverage them and their community. And as that happens, it gets reinforced when we're not together. We have, guided meditations available for them to anchor in on their own time. But the sheer fact that they get to connect with us a couple of times a week, and we each bring our different gifts, and as we share ourselves with everybody else, there's the opportunity for some dialogue to answer questions and to expand their understanding and really anchor more and more deeply as they go on.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds powerful. We know it's powerful. I've been the guinea pig for 6, 7 years, and a whole bunch of your clients as well. It's made a tremendous impact in my life, so much so that it was like, "Hey, Bronwyn, this makes so much sense. Let's do it." By the way, listeners, you're going to be shocked. It's called the Aligned State, just like this podcast. Um, and the way that you can access it is www.thealignedstate.com, and all the information is there on one page. We don't want to overcomplicate things. We understand that people are busy, and we have done it that it's essentially the cost of a cup of coffee a day. And I mean, I think that's, when you look at the investment that myself and other clients have made to be able to get access to you, now they get access to me, and it's all around mindset. It's all around meditation. But more importantly, I think what it is that we bring the energy. There's nothing more powerful than being centered, because it helps you overcome the day, but also helps you take on the day. And that's what I've loved about what we do. And we love empowering other people to do it. So that's incredibly powerful. And hence why this is the first episode. And that's why I wanted you to quickly share that. Thank you for tuning in, Bronwyn, and everyone listening to the Alliance State podcast. As always, if this has resonated with you, and remember, it's episode 1, don't forget to subscribe, share it with your fellow leaders and even your team who could use a little alignment in their life. Until next time, here's a tag: stay aligned, stay inspired, and keep leading with purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Bronwyn. Bless you all,
Yeah.
and we'll see you soon.